Hello, BookTube. This is Aaron from Aaron Read a Book or Aaron Read a Book. Thought I'd do a Friday reads. I haven't done a reading update in a while, and I've read a few different things. But I thought I'd start off with a little haul I did first. I went to a shop that I actually heard about from BookTube, which is called Fopp, um, and and Gareth from Book Songs and Other Magic um, mentioned this, and I'd never heard of it, but I was in the area, so I thought I'd have a look. It's mostly sort of a record shop with that does DVDs and stuff as well, but they have a good book deal, which is I almost never buy brand new books, but they were two for £7, so it's basically the same as what I would get off eBay anyway. Um, and they have really good collection of like sci-fi masterworks, but I didn't see any sci-fi masterworks that I either don't have or haven't read before, so I've gone for a couple of other books that are booktube inspired. So the first one I got was um, Patricia Highsmith, the talented Mr. Ripley, and Ollie from Criminoli's been reading Patricia Highsmith, and it sort of made me interested. And Steve Donahue always recommends this one as well, so I thought I'd get it. Cover's quite cool. They have some really good covers in FOP, but this wasn't one of my favourites, but I just really want to read the book. Um, so let me know if you've read that and if you liked it. The other one was a Ray Bradbury book, Dandelion Wine. I really like this cover. Um, so Outlaw Bookseller said that this is his favourite Ray Bradbury, so I thought I'd give this one a go. I've only read Fahrenheit 451 before, so if you read this one, let me know as well. Um, On to books that I have been reading. So I've just finished a book for the Women's World Cup Readathon. So I drew Colombia originally, and I've spoken about the book I read for Colombia. But they only lost one game before they were knocked out by England, and that was um, they lost to Morocco in their last group game. So I picked up this book, uh, which is called The Harem Within, Tales of a Moroccan Girlhood by Fatima Mernissi. Um, this was super interesting. It's sort of they say it's a fictionalized um, account, but it feels very much like more of a memoir with sort of where she's just fleshed it out a little bit. Um, but basically, it's I didn't even know that this sort of harem existed. Like when I think of harem, I think of like princes with loads of women, but it was actually sort of an everyday thing as well. So her harem she grew up in with her mum and dad who are monogamous, and her uncles and their wives and cousins and things. So it's sort of like a family unit. And in this book, she does discuss a lot about what harem means because she's a girl and she's confused about what it means because her grandmother lives on a farm with like seven other women and their grandfather, but they don't have walls, and she has walls and gates. You can see the gates there, and a gatekeeper. So she's like, "How come this is a harem and it has a gate and that we can't leave?" Or the children can leave more than the adult women. But her grandmother, when they go visit their grandmother, you can run free, and and she sort of discusses how it's more of a frontier or rules against women. Um, and it's set in the 1940s, so it's really interesting time in Morocco because obviously there's lots of French there for the war. So um, this is in Fez, but right next to the where they live, just down the road there is like the French Quarter where the French are, and there's lots of sort of modernism happening and women's liberation. So her mother's like deeply feminist and wants doesn't want her to wear a veil. Wants when wants the harems to end, wants her to sort of tell stories to the world and stuff, and be make an impact on the world because she couldn't. Um, and her grandmother's a really free spirit as well, and is always playing tricks and stuff. And it's just super interesting, like hearing about their lives, and they all this just goes through various bits of just daily life in the harem, like their their skincare routines and things like that. And they sort of sit on the all the women go and sit up on the roof and put on little plays and tell stories. And they love. She's obsessed by 1001 Nights because it's this sort of story of a woman defying a king. And like because it's the 40s and things are changing. At one point they vote take a vote and they're allowed to go to a modern style school, so a French style school, and she loves it and is talking about how she's learning all these different subjects and stuff. And then she says, when you want to go to the toilet, you have to go down to the other side, and when you come back, you get to knock on the door and be let in. And she says like this is extraordinary to her because in her house a gate is either open or closed and there's no knocking to get in. It's really interesting. I highly recommend it. And uh, Fatima Mercy is like a sociologist who wrote loads of books about women in the Quran and stuff. And she was a very important person in Islamic feminism. Um, so it's very interesting. And also, this because she wrote this in the 90s and she's talking about her girlhood in the 40s. There's little bits of it she talks about, and she says that like women had more liberation in the 40s in some ways than they do, especially in other parts of the Arab world now. It's very interesting. But super glad the Women's World Cup led me to this, and that it's just made me realise that I should branch out more reading these books from sort of Colombia and Morocco because they are super interesting. And it's not something you would actively go looking for generally. So, um, like I should do what Roz does and just try reading a book from every country. Um, Apart from that, I've been reading. So normally I only read one book at a time. I'm very much a single book person. Unless the only exception normally is when I'm reading a non-fiction. Sometimes I'll read a fiction at the same time. But I've somehow accidentally got into three non-fictions at the same time, so I'm making really slow progress on everything. The other book I've been reading quite a lot is this Lady Antonia Fraser's Mary Queen of Scots. So this I decided to read for Historathon. I love the end papers. Um, so I'm reading one. I'm just reading one chapter a day of this because it's right at the start of the time period of this quarter for Historathon. And I've got another book that's about a dancer in the French Revolution, um, which is obviously right at the end of the time period. So I want to try and get both of those in before we move on to the more modern history. Um, but yeah, I'm really enjoying this. I realised I knew almost nothing about Mary Queen of Scots. Lady Antonia Fraser is a really good writer. And this book was like a massive success when it came out. I think it was in the 60s. Yeah, I mean, loads of dramatic things happened to Mary Queen of Scots that I didn't know about. I sort of knew I knew she uh, about the end of her life, but um, I didn't really know anything about it. Uh, but yeah, so I'm enjoying that. The other thing I picked up is um, Empire of Pain by Patrick Radden Keefe, and I loved his book Say Nothing, and I got this for a quid from my secondhand bookshop near my old work. Um, so yeah, I've just been watching Dope Sick, the TV program with Michael Keaton. It's about the opioid crisis, and it's about the Sacklers. Um, and this is obviously the story of that. Really enjoying it so far. It's just going through. I'm just at the beginning, so I'm just learning about Arthur Sackler, and having watched Dopesick, it seems amazing to me that he uses exactly the same sort of tricks that his nephew does for OxyContin. Um, it's amazing they could get away with it twice. But yeah, it's super interesting and sad. Um, so they're the three books I've been reading. I've also read a few books for Gub August. So um, I read first of all I read this The People's Friend pocket novel, which I picked up just because I found the cover really funny. Um, and it was surprisingly good. Like it was an enjoyable story. I thought it'd be like filthy, but it wasn't. It was there was no real like sex descriptions or anything. It was kind of very outlandery, in that it's about this redcoat this girl who dresses up as a redcoat to try and like find her brother in the Highlands, and she sort of falls in love with this Scottish bloke. And there's an evil redcoat, and they have to battle him and stuff. But yeah, it was quite fun. Considering considering I think they just give these away for free with the magazine. Um, but yeah, that was quite fun. But the other book I read for Garb August, which I think it, it, it's one that Criminally recommended, and it's basic for me defines exactly what is great about reading sort of trashy books, and that was Slugs by Shaun Hutson. Um, and this is a book about killer slugs. So in England, um, so basically it follows this health inspector, and he sort of starts. They first find a body that has been eaten by slugs, and about 80% of the book is just little individual stories of people being attacked by slugs, and then the other 20% is the plot line of this health inspector trying to find out where they're coming from and how to destroy them. Um, it's I think it's the book that has made me make noises out loud the most that I've ever read. So either in disgust or laughter. Um, there's quite a lot of sex scenes in it as well. And I think Shaun Hudson was about 23 or something when he wrote this, so they're quite um, juvenile. He loves the word cleft, so that tells you everything you need to know. Um, but yeah, I loved this. The reading experience of reading this book was brilliant, and it was very Garth Marenghi. Um, yeah, so if you want some enjoyable trash, I highly recommend it. Um, the thing that amazed me about it as well, that not one person thought to use salt on the slugs, which I think is the first thing that everyone does when you want to kill slugs or stop them coming into your house. Um, yeah, but I did love it. I'm tempted to move on to there's a second book in the series. So we'll see how that goes. Um, yeah, so that's my update for today. Let me know if you've read if Dandelion Wine or Talented Mr. Ripley, or Empire of Pain or Mary Queen of Scots. Yeah, have a good one, Book Cheap.